Welcome to Conversations in the Closet with your host, motivational speaker, fitness expert, and fashion guru, Theresa Roemer.
Welcome to Conversations in the Closet. I'm Theresa Roemer, and my guest today is the amazing Carmen Carrera. Welcome, Carmen.
Hi, Theresa. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, so for the listeners out there, if you're not familiar with who Carmen is, she is a reality TV personality, a model, a burlesque performer. She's an actress. I mean, like, the list can go on and on and on.
I am an activist as well.
Exactly. And that's really why we have you on the show today. You know, we're reaching out to you to talk to you a little bit about, you know, all this crap. I call it crap because it's crap. You know, having the president roll back the transgender students' rights. I mean, you know, there's no one better to talk about this than you.
Yes. I mean, it definitely is crap. I agree with you on that. You know, it's most importantly for me, I've always been someone who believes in influencing young people better because, you know, young people are so vulnerable and they're so kind of open to the information that we give them as adults. And I know that me raising two kids at home, I always think about, you know, what am I preparing my kids for? What am I, what knowledge am I passing down to them? So when the president of the United States sends a message to young trans people, it makes me want to fight. Exactly. But you know, because I'm really passionate about children, and I've always wanted to be a really good example for my community. And I felt like for so long we were doing so well with breaking ground and trailblazing in entertainment and really getting the message out there and enlightening so many people. And I really believe that in doing this and being part of this process, you always, you know, when you shine a light, you always kind of see all the ugly before it gets better. And I'm really hoping that this is just part of that process and we can try to rebuild and enforce, I guess, the unity within our community to be more creative in our strategic kind of planning on how to rebuild our civil rights, our human rights.
Right. And I couldn't agree with you more. You know, it seems like these past few years we've come so far in, you know, legalizing gay marriage, you know, and you know, myself, I have a lot of gay friends. I have a lot of transgender friends. And so I remember being invited last year to the LGBT big gala. And that was my first time of actually using co-ed bathrooms, you know, and I didn't even have a problem with it. And I don't think most people have a problem with it. So I really don't understand what's going on and why he's trying to roll this back now. And it's, you know, it's got our kids in a tailspin because, like I said, it seems like we've come so far and now to have everything going backwards again, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I kind of feel like there's so much ignorance and I kind of, of how and where it all started. And for me, I remember growing up and watching on Jerry Springer.
Oh, I love Jerry Springer.
Yeah, you know the scenarios where they have, you know, the person come out with their lover and they reveal that they were, you know, born a different gender or whatever it is. And I feel like a lot of that programming has been the foundation for the ignorance in this country. So the media plays a huge role. The television plays a huge role. And I really hope that we all use this opportunity to help educate one another. And it starts with our allies. You know, like I you know, see that you have trans friends and gay friends, and I'm sure, you know, you are considered an ally. And we need more people like you to understand where we're coming from and why we feel the way we feel. Because most people, you know, everyone has their problems and their issues and their day-to-day kind of challenges, but I don't think anyone truly understands what it feels like to not be allowed to use a restroom, to not be allowed to love the person you love, to not be able to really shine and develop your personality because of what society tells you, you know, and,
right.
And I really hope that this helps people to to put things in perspective and kind of, I hope we gain some allies out of all of this.
Right. And, last year when Caitlyn Jenner she became Caitlyn over Bruce, I thought we had come very far just with that going on. I mean, like that when she got her own show, I just felt like that was like huge in the transgender world.
Yeah, I think so too. Me personally, without, insulting Caitlyn Jenner, right. But I kind of feel like she's a bit new for her. She has, a roof over her head. She's educated. She has a family. She has all of the things that trans people ought to have, So it's kind of a gift and a curse with Caitlyn. I think that she was able to bring the topic to light, opening the door for activists like myself, like Laverne Cox, like Janet Mock, like Gina Rosero, so it's definitely been a help, but I also think that with that type of exposure, you receive a lot of the ignorance and stuff. And I think someone like Caitlyn Jenner, I don't think she was exactly prepared for that. I don't really think anyone's prepared for that, but it had its benefits, but at the same time, I think the point has yet to come across on a mainstream level. And I'm speaking about me personally, the struggles that I deal with as a trans woman who kind of, I believe in merging the societies. I come from, a drag kind of background, coming from the nightlife, and coming from other trans women who are sex workers, not necessarily by choice. And now I'm trying my best. I just got my birth certificate changed to female. Unfortunately, when you do that, your credit gets reset. So now I have to start from level 0, basically.
Right.
And just, build on my respect as a woman, and I'm faced with ignorance. But I think that it's really tough. And I hope that we have more chances like Caitlyn Jenner has had to tell our story, to help spread the knowledge,
Right. And, believe me, I truly believe that, Caitlyn Jenner's story is totally different than the real transgender world, because like you said, she was already famous. She already had a roof over her head. She already had millions of dollars. She didn't really have to deal with what the normal transgender person has to deal with.
Yeah. And she's educated, which is, really important. She's, when you live this life, you don't have many options. You don't have many resources available to you at your disposal, she's educated, she's experienced. I mean, she's an Olympic athlete,
right?
She has a lot of security that we don't have. She has a lot of, I guess, she has things to fall back on.
Right. So, what would your words of encouragement be to the smaller transgender teens out there that are scared to death right now?
Well, my word of advice would definitely be, we have to try to be there for each other. And this is our building. This is basically a building block. This is where we get to prove everyone else wrong. This is where we get to go to college and we get to have our careers and we get to, flourish into the beings that we know in our hearts that we are, because no one else out there really knows who you are on the inside. And it just takes a little bit more work to have to build. And we're just at that point right now. And we have to keep going, because if we give up, then, no one else is going to fight for us like we will.
Right. But don't you think in the transgender world, we're kind of at a spot where the gays were maybe back in the 70s and 80s, where back in the 70s and 80s, it was not acceptable to be gay. And gays were called horrible names. I mean, and gays were scared to death to even come out of the closet because it was not acceptable. And now here we are in 2016, 2017, where it's okay to be gay and you're welcomed and you can get married as a gay, and we've come so far. So don't you think that's what's going to happen with the transgender world?
Well, I'm really hoping that, that will happen, but you have to understand that, with trans people, I think it's a little bit different, because we have to work hard for the respect of who we are becoming, and that's a lot for people to deal with. And I guess it is kind of similar because many people have built their identity on the idea of like, you know, the male and the female roles. And that obviously was questioned back when, you know, when gay people were fighting for their rights. And I think that now I think it's a little bit tougher, honestly. And it's not like being biased or anything, but because I've dealt with, you know, you have to understand, I lived a gay experience, you know, so I do remember, but the difference is that I had resources. I had many more people who thought the same way that I did. As they're very limited resources that you have. So it's almost like a lonelier kind of experience, you know? And yeah, so for me, I'm hoping that, you know, something really great happens where we do have that moment of like, yes, this was worth it. But really, honestly, it's like touch and go. It's like a everyday kind of like, I have to motivate myself to get up and feel good and continue to fight for what I believe in. And it's a lot of like almost, you know, I'm having to convince large groups of people, and that's a challenge. But we have social media, we have our allies, we have people like you who definitely get it and are there for us. So I try to focus on the bright side.
Right. So if you don't mind me asking, at what age were you when you felt like you were in the wrong gender body?
Oh my God, I was in kindergarten. I was in a Catholic school in a very urban influenced neighborhood. And that's, you know, out of respect, I say that. And I remember always feeling like I didn't really believe that I was a boy. I was like, in my mind, I was like this beautiful girl. So
you always saw yourself as a girl?
Yeah, I did until I kissed a boy in kindergarten and got kicked out of Catholic school. And then I was in public school, and then I had a real like tough time my first grade public school, and I taught myself how to just be silent and to kind of watch. I watched everyone until I was like in high school, and I started to I didn't really develop my people skills back then. I didn't kind of know how to cope with life. I didn't, you know, all the things that you learn in high school, how to interact. You develop your self-confidence. You have your prom experiences. I never had any of those things, so I had to.
And so when you decided to really come out, I guess, did you come out as a gay first?
Well, yeah, I didn't think that transitioning was possible for me.
Right.
So I just figured, well, all right, I like men, so I guess I'm going to have to just explore the option of living the rest of my life identifying as a gay male. And through that experience was when I got to learn about trans women, about expressing my femininity, and I did that with my the drag shows and the competitions and stuff. And back then, if you ever questioned your gender identity or your sexual orientation, you found yourself at the gay club. That's just where you would go, you know?
Right.
And it was just a mix of all these different people who, you know, were attracted to what they were attracted to and were proud. I'd never been exposed to people who are proud of being who they are.
Right. So when you decided to come out as a gay, were your parents 100% supportive on that? Because I have a lot of friends that their parents don't stand behind them. They've shunned them to the curb. Gays as well as transgenders, and you can feel their pain. Like you can feel that pain.
Well, my mom, I kept it a secret from my family for a really long time. By the time I started to transition or think about transitioning was when they kind of found out. So I didn't really give my family time to adjust to the idea that I was not who I said I was. I So I didn't necessarily have to deal with the shunning. I had to deal with the explaining. I had to explain to my mom why I didn't tell her sooner, and why I essentially put myself at risk, identity, by going out, and trying to find myself instead of just being honest and saying, Mom, this is who I am and this is who I feel that I am. I probably would have had a different life, but I don't know, I guess because my first experience in school was to like remain quiet and remain silent, that I never really opened up. So luckily for me, I never dealt with any of that with my family. It was more about like the kind of like the guilt, like, man, I should have told my mom sooner. I should have been more honest with my family. But that's my own experience. But, for the most part, throughout high school, I stood really quiet and I witnessed people getting bullied, and I never said anything. And that really bothered me once I found respect for myself and pride in myself. And that's why I'm such an advocate now, because, the louder my bark, the sooner someone else will pick up that message and hopefully, be able to be strong and be comfortable in who they are. I had to sacrifice most of my childhood just because I wasn't able to have the resources and look up to anyone, who had a positive kind of positive image,
Right.
That's what fuels me now to be that person. But luckily my family loves me and accepts me. So
have you had any horrible experiences in transgender bathrooms or anything?
Oh, yeah. When I first started transitioning, I was on tour with RuPaul's Drag Race. So I was basically living out of an airport, and I was very androgynous. My hair wasn't long enough to put in a ponytail. I wasn't feminine enough, but, I was in between genders, and I didn't know what bathroom to use. Most of the time I used the family restroom, because the times that I would use the ladies' restroom, I'd get like the looks and sort of like the attitude. I didn't have anything where, I was like asked to leave or, but you just feel that, you just feel it with the interaction. I'm a very bubbly kind of personality. I can get along with just about anyone. So, when you look up to someone to smile in the mirror and they kind of look away or give you that look of disgust, it kind of pierces your soul a little bit, because you feel like, well, who's on my side? Does anyone love me? Like, I don't know. Like,
sometimes I'm sure you've just felt completely alone out there in your battles of trying to become a woman, but
absolutely. And it was just based on the way that I look, function on what's on the outside, what you're wearing, they'll judge you on what job you have, what car you drive, versus on, the type of person you are, and how many, hours are you putting into your behavior? How, what are you doing to help people less fortunate than you? I think that some people get so wrapped up in who they're supposed to be or how they want others to kind of receive them, and they get lost in their ego, and they kind of lose that kind of like human connection to the rest of the world. So for me, it was a struggle to find women who would just support me and have my back. And now that I do kind of blend into society now, I still look for those women, and I found great friends. And, I found women who kind of almost forget that I'm trans, because it's not necessarily an issue. It's more about the issues that I deal with as a woman. I need help. I wasn't prepared for womanhood as a child.
Right. Right.
So there's many things that I still don't understand emotionally, just, in interacting with men and other women, and, what's acceptable, what's not so acceptable. And those things I still look for guidance.
Right. Once again, the takeaway here is, just stand up for your rights, stand up for what you believe in, no matter whether you're gay, transgender, black, white, Hispanic. It just doesn't matter, just stand up for your rights and speak loud, right?
Yeah. And also, you are allowed to exist, like you are allowed to be who you are and love who you love, and you're entitled to your basic human rights to survive and to function amongst everyone else equally. I think everything else is kind of secondary to like those basic kind of human rights, civil rights. And I really wish that people all across the board understood that, is that we all should have at least the opportunity to try. to exist and to function.
Exactly. So, Carmen, I want to thank you so much for being on our show today. And you guys get out there and find Carmen Carrera everywhere on social media. Carmen, tell them where you're located.
Oh, thank you so much. You can find me at Carmen_Carrera, and that is on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook.
Awesome. And once again, also, guys, you know, you can find me everywhere out there on social media. I am on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Snapchat, you name it. And make sure you find that YouTube channel, because we are growing by leaps and bounds, and it is such a fun channel. So make sure you get on there and subscribe. So once again, Carmen, thank you so much for being with us. And then everyone have a great week.
Thank you, Theresa. Take care. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Conversations in the Closet. We will return again same time next week. Brought to you by NI30D Athletics.